it's a debate that a lot of people will be afraid to have. We're not. In fact, we embrace it. Let's have a healthy debate now with both sides of the argument. I'm joined in the studio, I'm delighted to say, by the Iranian activist Faezeh Alavi, who is for the ban on burkas, and also the political commentator Fahima Mahmood, who is against this ban. Let's start with you, if I could. Faezeh, why would you take the position of agreeing with Sarah Poshin?
Well, I think there's a big picture here. What is the UK government and the UK as a whole nation is dealing with is the terrorism as the primary threat to the national security. And what is important here is that if what Sarah Poshin is recommending is part of a big plan to tackle extremism and terrorism in this country, I think this is a good move to do. But if we are missing the big picture here, for example, many Iranians, many non-Iranians are now calling for the designation of IRGC as a terrorist organization. And the UK government is refusing to do that. If we are not taking these steps and only focusing on, for example, banning burqa, and we are only addressing one of the symptoms of terrorism in this country, this doesn't work. If this worked in France, it will work in the UK as well. But France missed the whole point, the big picture of tackling terrorism, and one of the policies could be the banning of burqa, and this shouldn't happen again in the UK. So if it's part of the big picture, yes, it is a necessity.
Fahima, before I bring you in, could I ask you about the situation in Iran? Because we saw during that Iranian uprising a lot of Iranian women removing their head coverings, removing their face coverings, and they were being ostensibly put in jail. They were getting in a lot of trouble. So we hear the argument a lot, oh, this is a Muslim woman's choice. Didn't appear to be that way, certainly not in Iran.
Well, in Iran, we are facing with a harsh situation under the dictatorship, Islamic dictatorship. Let me to go back to 1930s. We had a kingdom in Iran, and at that time, Reza Shah the Great, the king of Iran, was implementing a holistic set of policies in the country. One of them was exactly kind of the similar thing that Sarah Poshin was recommending, banning women to covering their face, and it was kind of similar there as to burqa. So because Reza Shah the Great was taking the holistic approach to tackling extremism and Islamic terrorism in the country, it worked, and we saw the development of the country in the coming years. But what happened in the 97 in the country changed the whole story. It was the Islamic Marxist revolution that took place in my country. And as a result, we are facing the similar issue, the issue that refusing to taking off your hijab can get you killed.
OK. Fahima Mahmood, you've been waiting very patiently to have your say. Presumably you are dead against the notion of any form of burqa ban on British soil. Why is that?
Well, firstly, what's just been said is completely contradiction, because firstly, it was said in Iran that women are terrorized. OK, and here it's been said that for wearing the burqa, they are the terrorists. So which one is it? And secondly, when it comes to Sarah, talking as a female MP for the first time, where she could have really raised issues with regards to domestic violence that is really on the rise right now, when it comes to, mental health in women's prisons and so many other issues, she picks on the European far-right nationalists and wants to copy them in British, not secular government.
Hang on. Are you saying that the electoral processes of France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, Austria, Switzerland, Bulgaria, Germany, Italy, Latvia, Norway, you're all calling them far-right extremist nations?
No, the ones that have gone for the ban, I've got the actual results here. All of them that called for the burqa were non-seculars. I mean, they were they were extremists. They were from the far right, like Geert Wilder, whatever his name is. And they were the ones that actually were calling for this. So it was those parties that Reform tries to say that they're not racist, they're not nationalist, but they're following suit. And that is completely against British law. If the bishops can sit in the House of Lords, why can't a woman wearing a niqab just go down to Sainsbury's and do her shopping? They're not the threat. They are not the ones that are causing terrorism, as some people like to misrepresent. If it's happening in another country, it is not the British law here. We are not secularism here, a sense that we have certain rules for freedom of expression and freedom of religion.
I hear you. We also have a democracy where, to be frank, Sarah Potion can ask whatever she wants.
Yeah, she said she's a magistrate. For her to discriminate.
She can ask any question we want. You don't get to tell her what she asks. Nobody gets to tell her what she asks. She's a free.
What a shame that she's actually against Muslim women. She is.
She did not say she's against Muslim women.
By picking on a particular group. And at the end of the day, she says she's a magistrate who would not in court actually represent or speak to someone who's wearing a burqa. Do you know that she could be actually called in breach of judicial impartiality and equality laws for even saying that? Does she not know the laws?
Fahima, you're big on saying we shouldn't tell women what to wear. You're telling
my body, my choice. Isn't that what we've been
You're
fighting
telling
for?
Sarah Potion what she's allowed to think, what she's allowed to ask as a question.
She should be better of empowering women instead of breaking them down for unreasonable security issues. We have no gaps in the law when it comes to removing the hijab, removing the niqab, and having that, whether it's courts, whatever. So what she's talking about is actual racism, discrimination, and against a particular group. And whether she likes it or not, that's what it is. And against another woman, from another woman, who has the first time in the Prime Minister's questions to raise some real issues that she has the power to actually focus on.
Let me put this to you. One of the points raised by all of these nations worldwide is we have a problem with cultural integration. We have silos in British cities where communities never mix.
Well, tell them what to wear. The exact same thing. I must dress like you. I must, have the same accent.
Fahima, this doesn't work it doesn't work if you shout. Listen to the question, please. We have silos in British cities where we have scant and decreasing amounts of cultural integration. Do you not think there is a point to removing those barriers so we can all get to know each other better? And one way of doing that could be to remove the burqa.
No, because that's really just removing religious identity. That's not, that's coercion. That's telling someone what to wear. And I'm not shouting. I'm in anger because there is a focus. And I'm really passionate about this. Don't confuse what I'm saying with anger and aggression when it's passion against women. And at the end of the day, when another woman is bringing down someone for no particular reason, there has been absolutely no terrorism for women that have been in this country that are wearing and dressing. They wear an extra layer of actual material where they can barely run, not wage war. They're just walking down the streets.
This time, you've been waiting very patiently, Faezeh. Let's bring you in. A lot has been talked about there. What's your take?
Well, I think the big mistake that is taking place here is that what the extremists, like the Islamic regime in Iran, wants to believe is that we are again, all of the Muslims are agreeing with us with implementing, for example, the hijab law or Sharia law. This is not correct here, and I think it is related to the point that she's making. The thing is that what the Western countries, including the UK, is doing right now is not helping multiculturalism, even if it's not multiculturalism. I think it's implementing multi-extremism in this country. You should give the opportunity for moderate Muslims to speak up against the horrible experiences that they had in their own countries. And if they are even in the British soil, I think they don't have the opportunity to speak up for what is real and what they believe in. And all of the conversation, all of the debate is putting us into the point that only extremism have the voice among Muslims to speak up in this country. This is a big issue.
And Fahima, isn't that the point? We live in a democracy where we're allowed to have uncomfortable conversations. In fact, we probably should have more of them.
I have the most uncomfortable conversations, and I've broken barriers in my own community.
Yeah.
It's not about that. The fact that you're trying to bring what is in another country over here, they have their issues over there, and they have got their things over there. If someone wants to say, you know what, ban the hijab or must wear it, for me, that's all oppression.
No,
both sides.
The point isn't to try and bring foreign laws to Britain. It's simply stating the fact democratic nations, which Sikhistan regards as bastions of liberal progressivism. Places like Norway, Switzerland, France, these aren't far-right outliers. They're countries that have taken
there was a loophole in the law
they've
for
taken
them
a democratic perspective that it's safest and best for their country to follow this route.
It only was a
That's
loophole.
not far-right.
No, that was a loophole for their secularism. That's what it was. And this country does not have that because we are democratic with all faiths that have the actual, freedom of expression and religion. So if that's the case, follow them, not just cherry pick what is they doing about burning the burqa, because they want to also, and they also have, taken away the Christian symbols, they've taken away the Jewish kippah. Shall we do that as well? Oh no, shall it just be the Muslims? Just be consistent then.
I don't think it's about removing, there's no conversation about removing all traces of people's religious identity. It was about taking away the face covering specifically. And by the way, it also mentioned things like face masks and balaclavas. That's the point.
Most GPs are still wearing them for whatever health reasons, okay?
That's in a surgical environment where it's a necessity. It's not the same thing.
And if you go anywhere else, if you go to the airports, if they ask you to remove the hijab, it is absolutely okay. Like I said, there's no gaps in the law. I don't know what she's talking about. It's just discrimination and anti-hate and for Muslim women. And from another woman, that is absolutely despicable.
Okay, Faezeh, final word to you. You're a woman. You're a Muslim woman. Do you feel that Sarah Poshin's words are hateful towards you?
No, I don't think it is at all. I think the whole point is that what we are doing is not allowing the moderate Muslims to speak up in the country, and they have a voice here in this country. And also, I think what is happening is that the Islamic terrorism is the primary threat to British soil and the British nation. I think this is important. If the UK government wouldn't have appeased the terrorism in this country, we were not here to speak about banning burqa here. I think this is the important point that needs to be addressed.
I would sincerely like to thank both of you. I really genuinely would. For coming on to GB News to have an absolutely fascinating debate. We need to get insight into your culture in a way we don't learn unless we get you together, right? You have opposing views. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for sharing them. Faezeh Alavi, Fahima Mahmood, I really, really enjoyed that. I really did. Thank you for your opinions. I really mean that. Thank you. There you go.